Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today I'm here with Peter Dance. Very, very cool name, Dance last name. So we have Invoker here at second place in the PPG webcam event. Peter, how's it going, man?
Yeah, it's going great. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, man. Glad to have you here. So you chose to play Invoker. Now, Invoker, in my opinion at least, has been like a weird pick. So we had like Michael Carrick, who did really, really well at the PPG IRL event just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that was very much attributed to, like, you know, he put a lot of time into this deck. So actually, when I did the video earlier this week, I talked about Invoker, and I assumed that you were also a type of player that has just played this deck a lot. Is that accurate?
I'd say so. I mean, most of it sort of stems from I'm normally a control player, and I love alternative win decks anyway. And obviously, Legend's been making a lot of waves with the deck. And that kind of put me back in love with it. But I was playing it like a while ago, but it's kind of my #1 deck I've been playing. So yeah, I've put in quite a bit of hours in it.
Gotcha. And it's funny because I've seen a lot of players like try to pick the deck up and just, you know, take it, and they don't do nearly as well with it as the players who put a lot of time into it. So that's why I kind of thought, like, yeah, Peter, he probably has played this deck quite a bit, and that makes a lot of sense. So I think it's a tougher deck to play because the format is kind of aggressive. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the problem is, and I said this in a post earlier today, I think the problem is with Invoker is people see the turn 5 burn or the turn 5 VS and just think like the deck's like just, you know, roll your face over the keyboard kind of thing. But like to get to turn 5 or turn 6 is so hard.
Right.
Like it's crazy. But yeah, it requires in my eyes, it requires a huge amount of skill to sort of survive, and also when to obviously take the life, when to, you know, combo and just discard with your extra cards. But yeah, it's huge.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. So with that all out of the way, I think we're on the same page a little bit here. We will get into the main deck. So TOP Arena. I'll be honest, I am not an Invoker player. I have tested and played the deck to some degree, but I would not say I'm one of the top Invoker players ever. So here's one thing that always gets my mind, right? People stop playing the Whis that searches TOP Arena, so now you just have to hard mulligan for the arena. I understand that when you don't open the arena, the deck is very, very hard to play. So just talk a little bit about that. Like, did you ever miss Whis? Like, do you think you can't possibly play it because of main deck space?
So with Invoker, it's like you've got to learn to play. I know it sounds weird, but to play without Tournament of Power, and you've got to learn to play even sometimes without Vegeta. Like I've had some games where I got to turn 5 without Vegeta. Like if you're playing against green, there's very little chance that the Vegeta's going to stay on the field. So like you've got to learn how to play the deck without it. So I think the problem is if you have something like Whis, it's like it's too slow. If it played it, like rather, you know, if it activated it from your deck and actually played it rather than just adding it to your hand, I think there would be a more appeal there. But like, no, I think you just hard mulligan for it. I think it's fine. I mean, it's like in most of my games, I still get it turn 1 or turn 2. There's somewhere you get it like turn 4, but it's not the end of the world.
Gotcha. And I was gonna ask about Vegeta next. So I've been watching you play the deck. I watched Michael play the deck, and I watched some of my friends play the deck. And there are so many games where you just don't play Vegeta on 3 for many reasons.
Yeah.
Either it's not gonna stick, or you just don't have the time to play it, that kind of thing. But yeah, people still make it to that late game. So what are some of the ways that you're able to play without Vegeta? Is it just like relying on Dimension Magic, relying on Senzu Bean? Is it that kind of thing?
Yeah, obviously it depends on your matchup, but like there's a lot more like negates that are like 2 costs now, like combination attack. I mean, it's not technically a negate, but it can be in a lot of ways. So you kind of relying, and like, obviously, which we'll get into later, but like violent rays and stuff like that. So you're kind of just dealing with it. And again, the way I used to play Invoker was I used to just drop Vegeta turn 3 and awaken. And like looking back at it now, that's so bad because you need to stay unawakened for literally as long as possible.
Just so you can keep cycling cards and whatnot.
Yeah. Literally, that is like the #1 thing. It's like, so if you play, the problem is if you play Vegeta turn 1, unless you've got like Beerus super combo in your hand, you're just going to take tons and tons of damage, and that's it for free. Where if you play it, say turn 4, turn 5, you don't need to force yourself to awaken, and it just, you know, it just allows you a lot more sort of options, really.
Gotcha. And then we're in this together. Board wipe obviously is really, really good. But one thing that Invoker players used to do back in the set 9 days, they would attack with their leader, they would discard we're in this together, and they would pick it back up from the drop area. And that would be kind of like your way to actually hard plus with your leader skill. But again, this format is a lot faster. So did you ever have time to do that, or was this really just for the board wipe?
So it's quite an interesting card. It's really there, in my eyes, against the hand control. Because if you fight against a hand control deck, that basically means you're not gonna lose your hand.
Right. Drop it.
But
pick it up.
yeah, exactly. But ultimately, there's only been 2 games I actually used any of its effects in the entire day. So like when I was against Legends in top 4 with his Trunks, because that deck is slow enough, I was able to discard it for my leader and pick it up because I don't have to worry about any threats. And then against Piccolo in the final, I actually used it as a board wipe, but it doesn't really get played much, to be honest. Gotcha. I don't tend to use the effect. It's one of those cards where it's like, I kind of don't want in the deck, but it's kind of a necessary evil. You kind of got to.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then we have our negate lineup, so 4 D-Magic, 4 Violent Rays, and then 4 Sense of Being. Sense of Being, quite obvious. Dimension Magic, quite obvious as well. Would you say you absolutely need 4 Violent Rays in this deck?
Either, if you're not maining them in the side, 100%. Because like when you're against like a deck like Black Broly, for example, like Violent Rays is the answer. Like that's the core reason. I mean, against certain decks, it's just useless, but you still discard it. So that's why I like it in the main, because if I'm against a deck that Violent Rays has got no use to it, I can just discard it with my leader. It's nice and easy. It's never like a dead card in my hand. Where something like Topo, I'd have to combo that away, and I'm not going to get much value out of it. Like, so I think I personally would not drop 4. You could potentially look at 3, but I think Violent Rays is too good to not have either in the main, or if you must do, put it in the side.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's so good in some matchups. Like you said, the downside is so little. At some points, it's literally just a free 5k combo. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And then we have some more of our Invoker extra cards: 4 Royal Condemnation, 4 Emperor's Death Beam, 2 Sleepy Boy. Royal Condemnation. It seems like there's a bit more deflect in the format. So how useful was this card for you?
It's only used really for the active main.
Oh really? So you haven't really counterplayed much with this at all?
I did. I'd probably say, maybe a quarter of my games I used it, but sometimes it's just like a bit of a win more. Like if I drop like my Rival Seeker, for example, and then I'm against green and they respond with the 5-drop freezer, I can Royal Combat to put it at the bottom and save my Rival Seeker. So a lot of time Royal's like one of those cards where it's like it's okay, but it's more for the cycling ability it does, more than the actual counterplay part of it.
Gotcha. And just from what I've seen, it seems like Emperor's Death Beam might be the MVP extra card. What would you say about that?
Yeah. Emperor's Death Beam, wow, that's such a good card. It's definitely one of my favorite, if you like red-blue extra cards in the deck. And you're right, because people have to go all in, and you just kill it for 1 mana, or sometimes you have to hard cast it. That's the case sometimes, and it's just too good. Like I survive so much with that card. It's amazing.
And then 2 Sleepy Boy, I kind of got this from Michael's profile, but since you don't always have Vegeta on the field, it makes sense to only play 2 and not 4. But this card also provides you a lot of draw power. So was 2 the right number for you?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would love 3, because I love this card as well, just purely for the draw 2. I really wish, because it's one of my pet peeves with blue, I hate adding things back to their hand. Like, I really hate it.
Right.
So for me, if Sleepy Boy was put to the bottom of the deck, it would be so much better. So it's a great card. I think it's only really at 2. It's too expensive to hard cast, and you generally will only resolve maybe 2, maybe max 3 in a game. So your chances are you're picking 1 up with your leader anyway. So I find 2 is the right number for that card.
Gotcha. All right, and now this just seems like some of the stuff you have to play because the format is more aggressive. So, you know, back in the day, Invoker didn't really play Cooler, but now you kind of have to because there's so many fast decks in the format. So, I know that a lot of Invoker players have been saying Cooler is incredible, like against Red Broly, for instance. I think this becomes your win condition. So, you know, how did these cards work out for you?
Yeah, so, I mean, when Cooler first started getting introduced into Invoker, I didn't like it. I really hated it. I just didn't see the point in it. So I put it in my side, and again, I still wasn't a fan. But then with all the Draftbox 6 hate against, you know, one tapping and blue and stuff, like, it's just so good now, like, for that reason. So the metas, in my eyes, has changed the way I value that card. And like you say, you know, against Red Broly, it's pretty much the only way I'm going to do anything against that deck. Or again, if I need to, you know, put extra pressure to kill Unisons, because chances are, unless they're at low life, Cooler's not going to be killing anybody, but it's going to be putting pressure on the Unison, depending on the matchup. And then, so yeah, for me, Cooler's really good, but it's like, that's why there's only like 2 in the main, because it's not amazing, but it's nice to have.
Gotcha. And then just for the win cons, this is pretty much self-explanatory. Yeah. 4 Rival Seeker, 2 Energy Explosion, 4 Catastrophic Blow, and then the 1 Victory Strike. The only one thing I'll ask here is, I've had teammates testing 2 of the Energy Explosion and sometimes just not seeing it when they need it. Did you ever run into that problem?
No, because in the deck I draw so much. The only time would be if I get one early and I decide to charge it and the one's in my life or something. I mean, that can happen. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love 3 of them in the deck, just to play extra safe in terms of, like, I don't need to worry about charging it. But at the same time, depending on the deck, it's not the end of the world. You can just, you know, play Rival Seeker at 3, and then as long as you've got, you know, your Vegeta on field, you can still pay 2 to burn 2. So it's not the end of the world if you just kill them with Rival Seeker and Cat Blow. So I think it's okay at 2. I would like it at 3, but no room.
Gotcha. And then just finally, I'll let you just, you know, take us through the side deck.
Yeah, so the side deck's an interesting one. I mean, for me, I think, even though a lot of Invoker players to me say that Mecha Frieza is free for them, I find the opposite. I think Mecha Frieza is like an unwinnable matchup myself personally. So maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. But so I wanted to bear that in mind. So that's why Kami's in there. Because with Mecha Frieza, they run that 3-cost. What is it, Gogeta or something? The one that makes all my extra cards +1.
Yeah, the SS4 Goku. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one. And originally, it was meant to be unexpected turn-up events. I think that's what it's called, the 1-drop black card.
Yep.
But I couldn't find any on the day, so I was like, okay, what am I going to replace? And then I thought Kami would actually be a better replacement, potentially. I mean, I sided in a few times today, but like, there was never once I wanted to actually play it. So I think if I'm going to drop anything, that card's going, or I need to reconsider it a little bit maybe. But yeah, Beerus Ball, it's a good card. It's mostly there for the green matchup, to be honest. Again, for the because Vegeta doesn't stay on the field long enough. When I pay 3 for Rival Seeker, I need a way to, you know, I can't Royal Con at that point. So Beerus Ball is the next best choice. So yeah, that's why Beerus Ball's in there really. And then Undead Awakening, absolutely love this card. Again, it was Legend that kind of prompted me to look at this card with one of his deck profiles. And again, it's just like for the go wide decks, you can just keep giving your leader 5k, and then with your, obviously, your leader ability, you've instantly got like a 20k leader, which is great each turn. And then Mifruba, I originally put him in for the Green Gotenks matchup, or like anything that's sort of big and tall. You could potentially use it for Black Broly as well, or maybe some of the Shin runs, but to be fair, I didn't side in Mifruba all day, but that's why it's there at least anyway. And then obviously Instant Reprisal, I can't pronounce it, but
Instinctive Reprisal, yep.
Yeah. That card again, it's just another negate. I mean, to be fair, it used to be in the main that did. But then with Vegex kind of going down, I kind of removed it from the main anyway. And I keep one on the side. It's useful. It's sided in, and it's a nice little negate, so I like it. The Tuni's cost is just for the control matchup, so green. Topo is an interesting one because again, not all invokers run Topo anymore. But the way I looked at it is, I just figured with launch, with Piccolo, there was quite a lot of like go wide decks. And to be fair, I think out of all my side that I'm going over, I think Topo was like my MVP side deck card. And it's like, I couldn't believe I even ran it without it. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of hate against it as well, but like when it works, it works.
That's so funny because yeah, I mean, so many people say like, oh, Topo was amazing or Topo was awful. Like it's so polarizing.
Yeah, there's no middle ground, and it is purely dependent on the meta at the time. And like I say, I ran at the last PBG event, and I didn't run Topos, and I played against like Piccolos and whatnot, and I was just like, oh man, I wish I had Topo right now. So for that reason, 100% it's going to stay on my side. I'm not going to main deck them. I don't think that's the right call. I think side is the correct place for Topo, but yeah. And then the extra cooler is just there in case they side in too much, you know, the draft box 6 hate, and I need the extra, and also Red Broly as well.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of where my side's at. I think, like I say, the only card I would consider looking at is Kami, really.
Gotcha. So I appreciate you going through the deck with us. Thank you very much for that. Any shout outs or any final words you want to throw out there?
Yeah, sure. So shout outs to a new team that's pretty much not long been formed in Norway, which is Team North Star, which I'm part of. And then obviously shout out to PWG for running the event. Obviously for yourself with your channel, like I said to you before, I really like your channel. And just shout out to my brother for always supporting me and playing with me. And then lastly, just my locals, Manaflux Gaming, and then Dice Cup in Nottingham, and then I suppose my new locals in Norway.
All right, man. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Excellent. Thank you very much, buddy. Take it easy.